when I started off 7 years ago, when I got out of the military, I was very left-brained, very analytical, very logical, very arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
I was loud. I was boisterous. Because I was in a lot of pain. I didn't even realize it because I felt good, right? When I had all
Mm-hmm.
my chemistry right with all my caffeine and my alcohol and my marijuana, and made sure I had my workout. I had to have my workout, or that would throw me off, and then I can't get in an argument, or you know what I mean? So I was good as long as everything was good. And
Conditions, yeah.
going back to what you were saying, with networking, I would be able to have deep conversations with 100 people at a networking event, but eventually I couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't handle the load, my circuitry, my body couldn't handle the electrical load anymore. Because again, I wasn't on all that caffeine, I wasn't drinking all that alcohol, and as I was trying to heal and trying to be more healthy, I couldn't sustain the way I was being, and the way I was being was like 250% more than what I could sustain. So
Yeah.
I would just burn out, that adrenal
Yeah.
fatigue. And it really wasn't until I got to the point where I collected all of these business cards, right? I went in a year, I have a whole box of, like, the first year I was in entrepreneurship, I just networked for like a year, man. I just went and I talked to people, I interviewed people, I did all these things because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't really know who I was. I just wanted to figure it out. And I must have collected over 1,000 business cards and got maybe 2 or 3 emails back. And then so I had spent even money on business cards. I stopped even carrying business cards. I was like, if you really want to connect with me, you will find a way. And guess what? And nobody does. You know what I'm saying? So what I started to observe in the entrepreneurship community, in the business community, that it was all ego. And it took the universe forcing me to stop and deal with myself, to realize I don't want to be in an inauthentic type of industry such as that. I want to be with people who are real, who don't mind being vulnerable, who have been through the ringer and now have sustainable ways of living that can help other people do that. And so I guess what a good first question of the day would be, what in the last year and a half, what has been some of the sustainable life systems that you've adopted that have really helped you increase your vibration and then maintain that resonance, so that you're not wanting all those things that kind of dip you down for the instant gratification?
Yeah, it's really great that you brought up sustainability, because that's a question when I'm trying to keep a balanced life and keep moving forward, like on my partner, my partner and I call it the blue line, like God's blue line, you know what I mean? Like the navigation line, like, are we going, I always ask myself some questions. If I'm experiencing burnout, if I'm having issues, I ask myself, is there insanity? Is this unmanageable? And is this sustainable? And sustainability and
Say that one more time.
Yeah. Does this present unmanageability?
Okay.
Is this insanity, my behavior, or this routine, or this lifestyle, or this activity? And is it sustainable?
I like that, because that's something that the crowd could, or the audience could use in their own lives. I mean, that's big with me, is through those videos I was making, I was talking about, stop, breathe, ask, listen, trust.
Yeah.
But now you're giving them actual questions that they can ask while they're in that state. And that's kind of what this whole process with Warriors of Light has been for me personally, is I have so much knowledge and wisdom and all these ideas. I don't know how to get it to come to here. So I'm just going to keep putting it out. And now it's starting to come together. So if somebody wants to figure out if the way they're living or what they're doing or what's happening in their life is good for them or not, they can stop, they can breathe, they can ask these 3 questions. And that is it manageable? Is it insane? And is it sustainable? And then from there, they can trust those answers that they get back, and then start to put into action the things they need to do to change their lives. So how did you come up with this? Did you and your partner come up with this and explain
No,
kind of that?
No, like this is, I mean, when I, last episode that we did, and I explained like the 12-step program, like fine tuning me and giving me some tools, right? Like I didn't have this kind of stuff. So there's part of that that comes from like a 12-step recovery lifestyle, unmanageability, insanity. And then I don't know where the sustainability thing for me came in, but I think because I can relate with you with that person that I think I'm right on the line of being an extrovert and an introvert, or I'm like an extrovert and introvert, or vice versa, where I can play that role and I can be that 250% like, "Ooh, I'm the people person, woo, giving the razzle dazzle, like super funny and like out there and really good with people." But I get burnout so bad and so quick, and because I wasn't good at moderating how much I was putting out there. Like I was so flowy. This is really interesting that you and I are, continuing to talk, because I am so flowy that I'm not like a lot of the time I'm not even in control with how much energy I'm putting out. Or if I'm around somebody, if I start mirroring their vibe or their
Dude,
emotions immediately, like without it happens before I even can be conscious
do
of
you
it.
catch yourself taking people's accents? Do you catch yourself
Yeah,
kind of, man,
yeah.
quick? And I'm like, what am I doing? And it's just, but I also realize that that's also a way, that's why people are so comfortable with us, is because I believe we have crystal auras, and our crystal auras actually transmute theirs and we become them. And so they feel kindred with us.
Right. And all my life too, strangers will be like, "You look like somebody I know," or "Are you so and so?" Or, they're always mistaking me for somebody else. And I've always heard it's a Pisces thing, because we're reflective and we reflect like what they're projecting on us. But I do that, and I have some awareness around. I've had a little bit more awareness lately. Like I went into a bakery when I was out of town in Idaho, and this sweet young woman who was working at the cashier, and she was so kind, and I was like, yeah, I love kind people. She's super friendly. And so I just kind of like jumped right into like her energy pool with her, and she was so sweet. And what happens for me is like I love kind people. I love nice people, right? So when I find it, I'm like, yeah. And then it'll go in like 5 or 10 minutes from us just meeting each other to like we're confessing our undying love to each other, or like, did we just become best friends? Yep.
Yes.
But which I like that, like I don't want to be any other way, because I feel like I'm open-hearted. But I walked out of the store and I sat in the car and I'm like, oh, I'm I'm really tired, because I just without even realizing it, I allowed myself to go, to switch and jump on that young woman's energy bandwagon. And I think why I attached to her so much is because she's a lot like me in my younger years, where I'm just doe-eyed and super nice and friendly to everybody. And did I got walked on a lot when I was younger? Yeah, but I could connect with her, and I saw a piece of myself,
Yep.
in her. And I was like, whoa, there was, I experienced what it was like to be her for a few minutes, and as I was mirroring her, and I'm like, there is no energy regulation on the output and the input. Anyways, I don't know where the sustainability thing came in.
I just,
Um,
what's really cool about that story though is I'm smiling the whole time because that's exactly who I was, because that's who I thought I had to be. So that
mm,
might be a program that you're still running from your past that you don't realize. Now that you're aware, now you can work on letting it go. Something else I realize is we're getting older
yeah.
and we don't have that energy that we did. But here's the other thing about that, is that I'm saying older in terms of like maturity, in terms
I
of,
know, I'm just making a joke.
and drink some dirt. I promise. Drink some dirt and meditate every day, and your age will go backwards. I promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
I started this year off looking like I was about 27, and now I'm back to looking like I'm 18 again. So it's fantastic. But in reality, what's so cool is something I'm realizing is I started this year setting the intention that I want to talk. Um, I want to listen twice as much as I talk, because I am a talker, man. My whole life I have just not
Yeah.
stopped talking, and I love it. But what I realize now is people don't want to hear it, and it worked before the world ended. But now after COVID, right?
Yeah.
And now after
Yeah.
all of this stuff has come out and now everything is what it is, nobody believes anybody's bullshit anymore. I didn't even believe my own bullshit. That's why I had to go through this transformation. And what I'm
Yes.
starting to understand is that people want to think for themselves. They're just never given the opportunity, and they don't have confidence in themselves, and they have a lot of trauma that makes them feel like they don't deserve to speak. And you can see this a lot in the way people talk, is when
Mhm.
they're stuttering all the time. It's they're always trying to think of the words to say instead of coming from their heart and being authentic the way that we can, because it's a gift. And so what I've also realized is that now it's the time for us, those people that have gone through the ringer, that have done the right work at the right time, that are creating these life systems, that are moving forward. It is time for us to be the shepherd, which means just asking questions. We can't do anything for anyone anymore, and that's all we want to do because that's who we are. And that's
Yeah.
why it's our job not to do anything for anyone anymore, because it's the hardest thing for us. So over the last year, how have you been able to let go of some of those programs and some of those ways of being that weren't serving you? Especially, I'm getting this vibe, especially with your daughter. I feel like your
Mhm.
daughter's teaching you a lot of patience. She's teaching you a lot of doing things differently than the way that you were shown, and not like perpetuating that cycle. So talk a little bit about that. You can use the motherhood as a analogy, but I want to know more for you personally in your life through your ascension. What are some new things that you've been able to turn off and then turn on?
Um, well, she's certainly, having children it's the most eye-opening, hardest, loveliest, scariest, most terrifying thing I've ever done. But so something that I can relate to ascension and spiritual evolution and then parenting my child is I've had to learn to not be so reactive because she's just a carbon copy of me, and she knows all my buttons, and so she knows how to push them, and if I don't allow my buttons to get pushed, then things go a lot better, and then same. And so I've how do I learn to drop bad behavior and habits and move into the positive ones that work for me? I learn by doing it. Dude, I'm fucking hard-headed, and I have a major anti-authority streak that runs through my soul, the very, character fiber of my being. I've always been like that. And so if somebody tells me not to, or if somebody tells me to do this, I'm going to do the opposite just out of spite, or, you can't tell me what to do. And so I think that somebody like me who needs lessons and needs spiritual growth, I've been able to learn a lot just by doing it my own way first. And then I'm like, oh well. And a lot of the time I walk into stuff and I'm like, I know that this is probably going to burn me out. I know that this is probably going to cause a lot of unmanageability and insanity, and crash and burn, and just a lot of headaches. But usually in those moments I have this pressing from my spirit, my soul, that says, do it anyway. You know what I mean?
So I wrote something down when you were saying that, and it's so the question. So I'm writing the questions down as I ask them, because I don't come with questions. We just have a conversation, and
Yeah.
it turns out amazing.
Yeah.
And we're basically reprogramming our fears and shortcomings, like you said, bad behavior. And that
Mhm.
means removing the fear of contrast. And that's something that has helped me get a lot more compassion for myself and others and everything, has been um, re-describing and retranscribing basically these words that we think they are, but they're not. And so for me, there's no failure, there's only contrast, as long as you stay
Mhm.
aware and you go,
Mhm.
oh, that sucked, I'm not going to do that again. Contrast.
Right.
And that's exactly what you're talking about, is
Yeah.
you're removed your fear of contrast, which means the fear of failure. So how are you able to do that? How are you able to remove your fear of failure and really allow yourself to go, this is probably going to fuck me up, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to be okay, and I'm not going to beat myself up anymore.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. I was thinking over this weekend about my life and all the things that I've needed to learn and all the different places I've learned them through spirit pushing me and guiding me down the path, like all my different jobs, all my different experiences, because it just so happens that for like my awakening and for my soul progression, I've had I've had all these different jobs that have showed me things, like helped start the awakening process for like society and government and financial and health and all those institutions. Um, but I'm so up for anything, and so that's a blessing and a curse. And I'm like, what are we doing now? Let's go. Let's do it for it. You know what I mean? Like, where's the party at? Like, I'm up for anything. We're doing this now? Okay. And I just have always kind of just floated like on a stream, and somehow I end up being like the next place that I need to be. And I've had a little awareness about that since I was younger. Like, I just go. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the queen of trying something new. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to take this job right now. Yeah. Um,
So
so that's,
how have you been able to temper that? Because now this is what I'm realizing as well, is this
yeah,
is who we were.
yeah,
And now we got to do the exact opposite, because then we got to find the focal point. And
yeah,
that's what I think is so difficult about the 30s, because I like to look at sociology, psychology. I like to look at groups. So all of humanity, and like looking at age groups and seeing kind of how behavior mechanisms are. I have this theory about life cycles. Every 7 years is a life cycle, and you become basically a new person. You become a physically new person every 13 months, because you grow every cell in your body. And then I
right.
believe every 7 years your brain almost becomes like a brand new, you become a whole new person. And so every
Mhm.
7 years, that's why you're seeing these shifts. And that's why you see relationships fail, is because you have one person who gets stuck in an old life cycle, and you have another person who's trying
Mhm.
to evolve into a new life cycle. And that's why I believe even marriage, in the term of the state marriage, has been designed to be a little manipulative and just oppressive, because it's not allowing people to grow. It really doesn't allow them to grow. You have I call when we hold on to relationships no longer serving us, I call them anchors. And you can only
Yeah,
have so many anchors that you can drag around. And as you get older and don't have as much energy, it becomes even less. And as the
yeah,
planet changes, it becomes even less. And so what I've realized in this change was, in my 20s, I thought I knew everything. And that, you hear people say this, you think you know everything and you're the greatest
yeah,
thing since sliced bread. And all of a sudden I hit 28 and my entire world flipped. And then the last 3 years it's been literally feeling, I felt like, I call it a baby giraffe on those
no,
stilts, trying to like
yeah,
learn how to
yeah,
walk,
yeah,
learning how to get up even, and everything like that, and
yeah.
so how have you, how have you in the last, say, 5 years, have been able to take that, I call it almost like a mental puberty. It's like we go through an emotional spiritual puberty around 28. How were you able to take these last 5 years and really launch yourself into this spiritual path? Because I want to start talking a little bit more about, in this conversation, I want to talk a little bit more about our spiritual development, unlocking that emotional spiritual side of us that allowed our masculine to heal, our mental physical to heal. And now that's basically all I want to talk about, all I want to think about, all I want to be
Mhm.
about, is this spiritual path, because it
Mhm.
is just opening a whole new universe of potentials for me, and I know for you. So let's transition now. Let's transition from, how were you able to really unlock your emotional spiritual side of you, and then kind of take that as your ability to fly, especially because we spent so many years pushing that down, like just burying that side of us.
Yeah.
I feel like it's
Well,
like a powder keg.
yeah, I mean, what I was feeling, since my trip to Idaho last week, coming back and stuff, I'm still feeling this. And this is the goal in my life, for in my spiritual evolution. My goal is to recover my inner child, to recover the most complete, whole, authentic, like God spark self part of me that's in here, that I used to be when I was younger, and that I, gravitated away from. And so I it's weird. Like, I don't have a great answer for how did you, because I didn't like come up with this plan of, I must become spiritually evolved. Like I do it out of survival. And like I think that I just, when the suffering becomes so extreme, like I have no other choice. And it's not that way, Julia. It's this way. So that's kind of, that's kind of how I end up doing things.
I'm there with you. I mean, I'm the kind of person I will do something, even if it's horrible for me, I will do it until I can't. Like I
Yes.
partied until I couldn't. I
Yes.
networked until I couldn't. I did the entrepreneurship thing
Yes.
till I couldn't. Like I am all in 100 miles an
Yeah.
hour. Let's go. And then when
Yeah.
it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Because here's the thing. My goal in life, my whole goal in life is that I will end up on my deathbed or rainbow bed, whatever you want to call it. That's my goal. That's my spiritual goal. My spiritual goal is I'm going to
Yeah.
ascend. Like that's my
Yeah.
rainbow
Yeah.
bud. Let's go. But
Yeah.
I love the way you said that, because you said two things that nobody really talks about. First of all, nobody talks about regaining their childhood innocence. And to me, that is life before ego.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
And the second thing is it's a means of survival, because there was no other path for me. There was no
Yeah.
other way I would still be here doing this with you now in this moment,
Right.
much less maybe even 6 feet up, if it wasn't for me choosing to seek this, whatever this was. And this has been this story, this sort of story has been told for eons, that this is the path of most humans go through. We have to, I don't like the idea of killing the ego. I don't believe the ego is gets killed. I don't think the ego ever goes away. But I realize that, I think it's, for me, I call it a soul merge, where the ego merges into the spirit, and that is when you start really kind of healing. So I was watching this video, and this person left a comment, and he said something like, "You're saying that we're all gods? Well, I don't know about that." And for whatever reason, something compelled me to say to him, "It's no." He goes, "Anybody's God? I don't know about that." And I go, "Not anybody, all of us." And right there, like in that guy's response, just in that guy's comment, his ego
Mm-hmm.
came out and said, "There's no fucking way that I could possibly be this." And in his mind, it's true. You know what I mean? And in
Mm-hmm.
his mind, and that's the reality. How are you
Yeah.
able to quiet that voice? How are you able to finally get past that voice that was saying you're not good enough? Why do you want to do something like that? You don't want to be that. You don't need to do that. Oh, how did you get past that voice? Because that voice is what almost took me out. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that
Yeah.
voice was almost what took you out.
So I do agree with you that I don't think the ego completely needs to be destroyed. I don't think it's possible to live without it. It's there for my protection. If
I
it's a
like
life or
that.
death,
Go a little bit deeper. Go a little deeper on that.
it's my protection. It protects my body and my soul, like if I'm being threatened or endangered. But I just try to reserve the ego for sometimes occasional use, um, but I don't. So I think that I am here where I am now, because not because I learned to stop listening, or because I stopped hearing that voice telling me all those weird little things like, oh, you should be really mean to that person right now. Oh, you should say this. You should make a joke at their expense, or you know, whatever. It's because I learned to tell the difference between the ego voice and the higher self voice. And a lot of my friends and I, people in my community, like will say, we have a disease that talks to us in our own voice. And so there, I have been working on that for the past few years, learning to tell the difference between my neuroses and my egotistical negative thoughts they never stop. I'll have weird thoughts like, oh, it talks to me in that weird little like sinister like, see, like, and it still talks, but I acknowledge it. I'm like, oh, hello. Okay, nope, not going to do that. Bad idea. Bye bye.
It's and again, going back to what we were talking about before, I think people, when the ego has been stigmatized, the word ego has been
Yeah.
stigmatized. You're egotistical. Oh my gosh, call somebody egotistical and it's just watch them will just melt down,
Yeah.
and which is a obvious ego. which is the irony is
Right.
hilarious.
Isn't that, yeah, yeah.
Like
It's
you're doing
acting
it.
in ego.
You're doing it. It's happening right now.
Yeah, we all have it, but it's acting in it or acting not in it so much, you
How
know?
were you able to stop judging it?
Huh?
How were you able to stop judging it and then decipher which one was yours and which one was this weird random?
It has a quality to it. You know what I mean? And it shoots really fast and it's impulsive and you know what I mean? And it's just like this, it's like this little like, "Meow," you know, it's like my lower self, like my more like shadow self. I have a name for her and her name is Stinkerbell. You know, like, and she's a stinker and she's a little pixie like sprite and she's impulsive and she deals in, you know, anger and mischief and whatever, you know, like those pure, you know, emotions. And so that it has a quality to it, to me, you know, like
I've been noticing the different, like I don't even know what to call it.
I don't know what to
It's
tell a
so
lot
hard
of
to talk
things.
about this stuff without being like, I'm talking to myself. So which voice is talking? All right, so this voice is coming
Yeah,
from here. And but seriously, like I could feel it. I could feel these different consciousnesses in the way they talk. Like I can
yeah,
feel my guides coming from here. I can feel my higher self, you know, and I can also feel my ego, my human.
yeah,
Um, but what I've also realized and what's become very different for me is that I spend so much time engaging with my ego now to work through everything that I'm processing and everything that I'm letting go of, that I've literally created this big brother, little brother type of vibe inside of myself now, where I'm still hard on myself, but my higher self, sometimes I'm my higher self, sometimes I'm my human. It's weird. It shifts in and out because
yeah,
here's the thing, people, we're the observer. In
yeah,
reality, we're not the higher self. We're
right,
not the ego. We're not the body. We're literally the God fractal observing all of this, and we
right,
can like play. We can play in it, you know.
yeah,
And what I realized is my ego voice is angry cat. I'm just angry cat, you know.
recap,
Just, "Ugh,
yeah,
fuck this and man, and you're dead.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that's my thing. Is just like yeah, stinker bell. It's exactly like
yeah,
perfect. Just
yeah,
angry cat, meh, you know. But
yeah,
what I've also come to realize is that if I listen to him and don't judge him,
hmm,
that I can start seeing that voice is actually projecting how I feel about myself and whatever it is that I'm doing in my life. So if I look at somebody external to me and I start judging with angry cat face with my ego, it's because they're reflecting something I'm doing to
yeah,
myself inside.
of course,
And for me now, I just try to be, oh, I'm sorry. What I also realized really helps is if you ask yourself, because nobody really talked. People were so scared of being considered crazy that we allow ourselves to get fucking crazy. And
true,
here's the thing: ask yourself, man, what's going on? Oh, and you'll get an answer. I
yeah,
freaking promise you, you will get an
yeah,
answer, and it will be like, was that real? Yes, it is real. Because again,
right,
you're not the ego, you're not the body elemental. It's consciousness that you've been with
mhm,
through all of your human lives that runs the body.
right,
And now we always ask, how does the brain know how to do all of this? Well, it's because there's a consciousness controlling all of the systems. And then I
right,
started going even deeper into that idea. I was like, they talk about how each organ is its own universe, and each
mm,
organ has its own brain, it has its
mhm,
own energy center, it has its own everything. And then you start even going deeper. Think about, we're made of basically bacteria. We're made of viruses and bacteria. That's why this whole thing going on right now is so
yeah.
mind-boggling to me, is because we are made up of the stuff everybody's
Well,
so scared of.
and it's forcing this shift in perception on, you know, what is the disease theory, you know, or what is it, bacteria theory, you know, model of medicine, and it's I
And
mean, how else was that going to get changed
you're right.
without something that is so whack and so bogus coming, coming through and like enforcing that model to change, new models. Dude, it's time to upgrade, new model for a lot of things,
I look at
belief
this.
systems.
I look at what's going on. I'm going to finish this thought real quick. So the body elemental bacteria,
Yep.
bacteria itself is it's a biosphere. You're a biosphere, and these are living organisms with its own consciousness that you can control. That's what's so crazy is the more you unlock your consciousness,
Right.
the more that you heal, the more you realize you have complete control over this body as long as you build a relationship with it and ask it to do the things that you need it to do. Because
Yeah.
it doesn't trust you if you spent your whole life abusing it. It's not going to
True.
trust that you have its best interest in mind. And as you continue to grow and be compassionate and treat yourself with love and light and do the right things for yourself, and it sees that through consistency and frequency, that's when it starts to come online. That's when it starts to unlock because it goes, ooh, we're safe now. Yeah, we can do this. Boom.
Well, and yeah, so it kind of brings up the question that you were asking me earlier about how did I come to, getting, being on this track, and how do I sustain that self-care. And so I'm hearing you talk about that, and you're saying our bodies and all the cells and the unique little like microcosms and universes like in our physical body doesn't trust us, right? Like I don't have a good track record of being kind to my body, my vessel, and then also being kind to my spirit. And so I think like a couple of years back I realized that if I act in kindness and love and self-care to myself first, then it has more of an impact on the world. It's kind of like the free radical. I used to be in the beauty industry. I used to do skincare, and I used to be an educator and a sales rep for skincare line. And so I'm used to kind of like giving analogies. I'm used to teach and give demonstrations. And it's like, if we're all people walking on this planet with a hole in us, and then we walk around being damaged and doing damage to other people, it makes a larger impact if we each stop what we're doing, spend time and attention to heal ourselves. So then when we, go out into the world, we're not fucking bumping into each other, causing a bunch of, pain and trauma. It's like, it's just like free radicals and stealing electrons from other cells. You have a free radical that is a damaged cell. And so it steals an electron from another cell. And then that electron needs a cell. So then it like goes and steals another, it's just that.
And it's brilliant that you're bringing this point up is because electrons are God consciousness. That's all
I
that's
heard
all the
you.
source creator's consciousness is all the
Yeah.
electrons in the universe.
Yeah.
And you're talking about how when a cell isn't balanced and harmonized, other cells, it will steal from other cells to try to harmonize itself, which will then create a chain reaction of
Yeah.
decay. To
And
me,
it never
that's nature.
fixes. They never fix themselves by stealing from, robbing from another cell. And it's exactly like what we were talking about,
I mean,
having
on
the
so many
whole.
different levels. This is economics with
Oh yeah.
sociology. This is
Oh
the
yeah.
body. This is brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. We just went from like microscopic level to universe, like
Boom.
expanse. That's
As above, so below. Again, like it
yeah.
really is. When I learned about the Fibonacci sequence, right, and I started to see the spiral, and I started to look at double helix.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the way we blend things, and the way a toilet bowl flushes, and then the
Yeah.
way a hurricane forms, and then a way a solar system spirals around itself, and a galaxy, and a universe, and it is just. And then we go. So you have all these people that agree. This is what I love about the cognitive dissonance of ego and spirit,
Mhm.
is that we can agree on all that stuff,
Right.
and then somebody will still say, "Yeah, but God doesn't exist." There's no.
Yeah.
But which my favorite argument about God not existing, and okay, source, not any one God, source,
Yeah. Yeah.
is you have to believe in it to not believe in it.
Wait.
So for you to not believe that a God
Yes.
exists, you have to believe in God
Yes.
for it to not exist.
Yes. And so it's really interesting that you bring that up, because last night I saw one of my friends, and they shared something on Facebook, and it was like they found it entertaining and funny. That's why they were sharing it. And it was somebody on YouTube who had done like a mock 12 steps recovery from spirituality. And like, I passed it at first. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, I think I know what that is. But then I like went back to it. I'm like, now I got to know what this really is. Right. And because that's how I form like my opinions and my thoughts on things, is I like to entertain almost everything, collect it all, and then I can kind of develop like a standing. But it, it was funny. It was like claiming absence of spirituality and acknowledgement of source energy, right? Because with somebody like that, you can't use God or the universe.
It's
or
flat, it's like the same argument of flat Earth or round Earth. It's a benign argument. It's ridiculous. It's just it's there to sow doubt, and it's there to manipulate, in my opinion. But maybe what they were trying to do was to get people to pull their attention away from God, but still bring it back to God, because they even use 12 steps, and 12 is completion, and 12 there are 12 gods and all that. So
and so it was saying, it was like taking out any sort of like deity type figure, creator type figure, but it was just swapping that out with science and rationale. Because science, right? Like, I feel like that right now in our society, we have the people who believe in a creator source energy, and then we have the people that are on the flip side of that coin that believe in science, like the phrase "because science." And that's what our whole fight is over right now, is because science, guys.
It blows my mind about it. Okay, so you practice law, and judges give opinions. Which we practice law and judges give opinions, but that's fact. And then doctors practice.
Yeah.
They practice
semantics,
medicine, right?
Where semantics.
And how about this? How about this with science, the scientific method, right? Why is it called a scientific theory? Because there's no such thing as scientific facts. So why do you think that they cannot deal with these types of conversations and logic and facts and truth and all that? Is because in their mind, fact doesn't exist. It's a theory. And we're finding out that Einstein's theory of relativity is not even really correct. Darwin's evolutionary theory, he even said was bullshit. And he said that he goes, I hope in the next 20 years that somebody can come disprove this, because it's wrong.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is it's a theory. And and this is where idolization comes in our society too. I have no idea, this is great about conversation, is we can just go wherever. This is like, I look at idolization all the time, and idolization in our society with like the idolization of people who are doctors, right? They must not be wrong because they're a doctor. Or the idolization of celebrities and public figure, stuff like that. And people like Einstein and Darwin, they even said, this is a theory. If anybody actually looked up what the definition of a theory is, it means I'm putting this out there. I want y'all to like come and disprove me. Like, let's keep the train going. Like, let's keep our minds open.
We have doctors from around the world coming out and going, we have like 10,000 of us saying that this doesn't work. No. And then the people that talk about science, the people that will shit on you for talking about God, and then will talk about science, you will give them the scientific method, right? You'll give them the scientific method and go, I'm just doing what you guys like idolize, right? Science.
Right.
But it's not science. That's what it is. It's pay to play science. It's narrative. It's marketing. It's Hollywood.
It's one particular aspect. It's like one particular theory, and then they've created a whole scientific belief system around that method, that model. It's all like models. It's all belief systems.
And the same thing with, all right, real quick. I mean, did you watch Kung Pao when you grew up? Do you remember that Kung Pao was like this?
No.
They took an old school, like 1970s They took a 1970s karate movie and they just dubbed it over with the most ridiculous lip syncing. And the movie
Okay.
was just one of the funniest things ever. And there's one scene where this guy comes and he's like just the worst martial artist ever. And apparently they trained him wrong as a joke. And so he goes to fight this guy named
Oh,
Kung Pao, and he goes to fight him, and Kung Pao punches him in the face and he starts to bleed. And he goes, I bleed first, I win. And it's like,
oh,
in this day and age, right now in this moment,
yeah.
so flipped upside down and been miseducated and manipulated,
Yeah.
propagated so much that we actually will get punched in the face and go, I won the fight. Or we'll
Right.
go and we'll get a vaccine that gives us cerebral palsy where we can't even use the left side of our body anymore and go, oh, it's not the vaccine's fault. It was a gene that I had and I did something, and then put
But
that onus back on us.
well, and then also, but you owe me, and you should be grateful to me for doing my part in everybody else's collective safety. This is why I'm better than you right now, because I hurt myself and did that for everybody else's safety. And for me, it's like I never asked you to do that, and I don't owe you anything. Yeah.
But that goes right back to the
Ugh.
entitlement too. And that it's
Yeah.
just
You owe me.
what blows my mind about this whole experience was I really went all in on the entrepreneurship. Like I tried to do the entrepreneurship thing. I started so many businesses. I worked with so many people, and it just never worked out. Which I now know why. I mean, just look at even if I would have had a business work out, would it be worked
It
out
did
now?
work out though. It
Well,
did work
it
out.
worked. It worked out exactly. It worked out
Yeah.
perfectly for me. But
Yeah.
in that point in time, it didn't. It
Yes.
didn't freaking work out.
Your objective that you thought you wanted
Yeah.
at that particular time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I also realized as I've been able to reflect on that over the last year has been because none of it was real. And that's what I
Yeah.
felt. Every
Yeah.
relationship I went into, it was, what can you do for me? And then nothing reciprocated. It was every time you needed to get money to do anything, you had to go out for the banks and you had to go for I call it blood money, Rothschild money. You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
money's poison. And so like,
Yeah.
that's what I started to so what basically happened to me over the last 4 years is that all of my spiritual faculties came online and I had no fucking clue what was going on. And so all of a sudden I was able to see things I couldn't see, hear things I couldn't hear, feel things I couldn't feel. And what did I try to do? I tried to keep staying the same way I was because it's all I knew. And
Right.
it wasn't until I embraced the actual changes happening within me that I started to heal. And I think that's what's going on in this the decay of society, which needs to happen so that we can then, it's a phoenix, right? The phoenix rising. But what
Yeah.
I think's been what's happening right now is that I don't know if we have necessarily a mental health crisis in this country right now. What I think we have is an inflammation crisis because our bodies are so inflamed. And I think through the fascia system that I'm learning, I think it's the spirit sleeve. It's what energy gets passed through is the fascia. I'm actually I'm doing a 6-day bioenergetics online webinar thing. I'm going to learn all about the body's energy systems because I think it's everything. And it's the one thing that nobody studies, and it's the reason why we're so sick. And it would make sense that they would suppress that information so that they could, feed their coffers off of facts.
I don't think we have a mental health crisis in this country or this world. I think we have a society crisis where we're not meant to live like this. None of this stuff. And so like this goes back to what I've been feeling my journey is. And when I was in Idaho, when I was listening to this ice crack on the frozen river, and I'm like, why is this hitting me so hard? And the sound of this ice cracking with no other noises around, it sounded like heavenly chimes. It was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. And I'm like, how am I hearing this so richly? Why is it doing, what it's doing for me? And why can't other people hear this and find love and enjoyment out of this? And it's because like our society gives us these things that are supposed to duplicate. What? Oh,
what? That's literally the
well,
whole time. Yeah.
well, society is like here to give us these things, to convince us that we need these things that we don't, to convince us that these things like branding, toxic food, entertainment, you know, social norms, stuff like that, to convince us that these things are just as good as like what we can find naturally on this earth or naturally in ourselves, like from the creator, right? Like music, you know what I mean? I'm like, the entertainment industry puts out music, but like none of that is as good as this ice cracking that I'm hearing right now. And so like society is this like fake, it makes a substitute, like crappy generic knockoff of everything, and it sells it to us saying like this is what you need. And when like everything from source creator and spirit and like everything natural is exists already, you don't have to buy it, you don't have to cheat, you know what I mean, you don't have to earn it, like it's just there, we get to be with it, it doesn't cost any money, and it's better than anything like that the fake AI matrix can ever put out, you know. I don't
I
know.
look at this our
But
architecture between. I've been studying over the last 2 years. I've been studying a lot of paleoanthropology. I just know that by going into our past, we will be able to get a lot of the answers that we don't have right now that will allow us to move forward. And the thing that they built everything out of stone. Why do you think they built everything out of stone? Not because they were barbaric, not
right,
because they were less advanced than us. It's because stone holds energy. It
yeah,
holds heat better. It holds
it's
electricity better. It holds energy better.
conduit.
It's a conduit. It
Yeah,
helps us heal. And
yeah,
so why do they build cities? Why do they build cities out of steel, aluminum, and glass? That does nothing but create this cacophony of noise and negative energy. And now that they're pushing all this 5G into
yeah.
our freaking lives, man, that's what is so mind blowing. And this is what's so difficult is that people need to understand that we're a little bit out on this major awakening, right? We're a little bit out on the major awakening. And what it is because it's not just one thing that's causing the problems.
It's
It's
everything.
it's everything together. And
Yeah.
the thing is I can't tell you that 5G by itself is going to kill you. But I can tell you that along with VACCINE, along with MASKSs, along
Yeah.
with a high carb, high fat diet,
Yeah.
along with a lot of sugar, along with alcohol, along with all these other factors are literally going
Yes.
to just destroy you.
I agree with you that the answer is never black or white. The answer is never left or right. The answer is never A or B, right? It's everything. And it's always going to be you know, complex and comprehensive and holistic, you know, because we don't live in a we think that we tell ourselves that we live in a world of black and white, you know, up and down, in and out, but there's so much more. And so why would we believe that there are only two options, one possible solution, like left or right, up or down? um and so what I thought of too was that for me, taking an injectable that is supposed to be the answer to this, for me, that ship has already sailed because my consciousness is wired. I'm already dead set in my personal opinion that those things are not healthy or good for my body. But somebody, it's all about perception and about belief, right? And we create that. So if you have, and I saw it in her right there, if you if you believe in that and you place belief in it and you believe it's not going to be harmful and you believe that it's going to be the answer, you know, and there's no fear around it, then that's probably going to be the thing that helps for that particular person. um
Just like sugar pills.
it's all the placebo effect, and I tell that to people that I work with, like women that I mentor and stuff like that. You know, I'm not asking you, like when we do spiritual practice and we work on self-healing stuff, I'm not asking for you to believe this, but if you do it, or no, what is it that I say? It's like I'm not asking you to agree with me that this is like the way. But if you believe that there is some power in doing this practice, then it's going to help. Because even if you look at the placebo effect, if you place belief in something that it's going to be helpful, you're allowing it to help you, because it's all up here, like
And I
if you're
think that was
allowing
what my childhood was.
Sure.
That was the worst part of my childhood, is my inability to allow myself to just be about whatever it is I was doing. I was always judging
Yeah.
it, which you
Yeah.
take yourself out. That's a safety mechanism. It's what I realized is my safety mechanism was always so that I don't have to, if anything good happens and then it fails, then at least I have my fail safe. You know what I'm saying? It's that
Mhm.
safety but what I realize is when we're trying to survive, where there's no capacity to thrive. And that's the biggest reason I chose. I think it was designed for me to go down this regardless of what happened.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I chose to go more the spiritual path and heal more the healing path, and the transformation path was like, I know how to survive. I'm really good at surviving.
Yeah.
What does it mean to thrive? I've never done that. I don't know what that means. And I don't
Well,
know if I've ever thrived in any of my lives, even the lives that was really successful in, or very, very, I don't think I thrived. I think it was very painful. I think there was a lot of lack. I think there was a lot of, I mean, look at the human lives lived for till
yeah.
what, the last 100 years, and we got what,
Yeah.
maybe 30 good years of it before they started poisoning us completely and just taking us. Just ridiculous what's happening right now.
Yeah, really upping the ante. Well, and I kind of feel in my family, and I've been aware of this survive and thrive thing for quite some time. And I had done survival for a while in my life, and then in the last few years decided, you know what, screw this. I don't want to just survive anymore. I want to thrive, but in my family and the generations of my family, um, we look at the way that people were wired, and how people existed in their social norms and in their family dynamics, in my parents' generation, in their parents' generation, and the generation before that. And it was very much survival. And I felt a lot of heat and a lot of pressure these past couple of years, especially living in my family's house, being the person that comes along and is like, you know what? I tried it your way. We've been surviving for a long time. God damn, our family's so good at surviving on both sides. My mom is a German immigrant. And then my dad has got European and then Native American, background. And it's like I look at all the people who were so strong before me, and they just head down in the trenches, just surviving. And like I honor that and I appreciate that. And how do I change my MO in my life without insulting the rest of my family? Like, hey, I'm not saying like what y'all were doing, like it
No,
doesn't
what's your
doesn't matter.
goals?
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is great. Like you got the family up until like this point, but like I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to just survive.
And
I want
who's
to
to
do
say,
something better.
and it's something that you can kind of bring to them is, and who's to say that all of y'all didn't survive the way you survived so that you can give an opportunity for future members of the family to thrive the way that
To
I'm going
thrive.
to teach our
Yeah.
family how to do that. And here's the other
I
thing too is just having conversations with you, your purpose is much bigger than having a human experience, I feel. Your purpose to me is to actually influence change on a massive scale for many, many people and many, many humans. So here's the other question is, how many humans in your family gave their time to serve other humans and help them heal? And so that's the trade-off, is when you're putting your time and energy into putting
yeah.
your head down to survive, you're serving yourself and maybe the immediate people around you. But when
Yeah.
you sacrifice your life for something bigger than you, for a purpose that's outside of you, you're serving humanity, and our focus has to be different. And
Yes.
so I want to end this on this beautiful conversation with the final question, because we talked about it a little bit. And I think it's important, is moderation and finding the middle ground, and how imperative it is to realize that our lives are a paradox. The world is a paradox. Earth is a paradox. The universe
Mhm.
is a paradox. And only in the paradox is perfection found. Because in the paradox, nobody's right, nobody's wrong,
Right.
nothing's up, nothing is down, nothing is left, and nothing is right. The paradox is the 0 point, and 0 point is 6D consciousness. It's unifying. So when did you start to realize that black and white is kind of what's keeping us battling each other? And when did you start to really kind of start to try to find that middle ground in your life, in your perspectives, in the way you parent, in the relationships? Because I found the more I moderate and the more that I balance and harmonize and even keel, right? Everything just flows. And there are people that are engineers and scientists and all those. We're not those people. And the people that watch this stuff, I mean, we could be, but for the most part, we're very spiritual. So there's a lot of people that watch this content that they want to flow, they want ease, they want peace, they want serenity. So how were you able to find some of that, especially coming from a family of survivors, coming from a life of surviving, and now finally being able to thrive while teaching your young one how to do that at a very young age?
I think it's only been in the last year or so that I have started entertaining everything as an option. And even last year, this time, I was really pigeonholed into one particular view on stuff. Um, and nowadays, like my belief system is I believe in everything yet nothing. Everything yet
The
nothing.
paradox, it's beautiful. It's
Right?
all real and not real at all. So
Yeah. It's and so how do I explain that? Like everything is real yet not real all at the exact same time. But I have only been able to find moderation when I stop when I s- when I stop. Well, it requires compassion because my failure in finding moderation in habits and lifestyle choices has I've always failed when I've tried to go off or on. You know what I mean? Like the off switch, the on switch. And be, it's like a self-sabotage thing where like
momentum.
if I turn that on switch on, well, and if it's on, like I'm just gonna keep being on. You know what I mean? Like um
No,
I-
I'm there with you 100%
yeah,
because that's why I call it lifestyle now. Lifestyle changes, lifestyle choices, because you
yeah,
can't go on a diet and and then get off the diet
yeah,
and then expect to stay the way you were physically looking.
yeah.
Just like you can't get on a supplement for a month and it do good stuff for you and then get off of it and then you start feeling like shit again and then you go, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Well, and it's
consistency, it's frequency, it's consistency, and
yeah,
it's choice." We
yeah,
force ourselves to do shit we don't want to do. So why don't here's the thing. So maybe what I was gathering from you and what I wanted to complete your sentence for you. It was like
do
your
it.
ability to moderate and your inability to do those things then is what has created your ability to start doing it now.
Absolutely.
And
It's
the compassion is
yeah,
what led you to there.
yeah. And the lifestyle, right? Because I used to be like destination addiction, quick fix, the right answer, the wrong answer, how do I get from 0 to 60, where I need to be, this is where I need to be. And so compassion and I'm losing my train of thought a lot.
We're being at it for 1 hour and 12 minutes. So
Yeah, well, but compassion and the thought that this is not torture for these certain, these certain gains that then I'll be able to I'll be able to get what I want and then stop living that way, right? And be able to keep the gifts, right? The gifts. I have like recently I've been like, oh, I guess this is a lifestyle, like a lifestyle change too. Like, I guess I'm just going to have to adjust my expectations around continuing this sort of lifestyle so I can keep the gifts from that lifestyle. And that has to do with like eating and, all that stuff too.
I love it. I love it. No, seriously, thank you so much for opening up to me and
Yeah.
coming on again for another long conversation that goes like that. I mean,
I know it
it
feels
was
like,
it was a little more difficult as well. I mean, the
yeah,
a weird day. I mean, across the
yeah,
country. I mean, I
yeah,
mean, I think it's like 80% of the country is in like the deep freeze. The energy on the planet's weird. The geopolitical sphere is weird. So I thought it was an awesome conversation. I always judge myself, and then I go back and I watch it after like a day or two, and I'm like, this was freaking gold. It was great. So I'm excited to watch it back and edit it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to have you on frequently. Come on whenever. And then maybe we'll just start our own show, like you said, East versus West, and then start really maybe getting to that point. Again, if you want to, whenever you want, just come on and we'll have these conversations, because I think that they're really powerful for people. And what I've also realized about the content is I think people are kind of getting a little burned out on the same way we've been making programming for so long, that when we just jump on and start having a conversation, people feel like they're part of it. I love watching content where it's 2 or 3 people just shooting the shit, and you get so much out of it.
It's organic.
And that's what we're moving towards. And we're trying to build an organic community of people that it's authentic and it's real and it's raw and it's truthful. And I'm just not the Matrix anymore. And maybe I'll find my focal point eventually, but right now, man, I want woods, and I want birds, and I want plants, and it's just what my soul needs, you know? So thank you for so much for sharing your time with me. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. And you as well. And I feel the same, you know, like to close out too, like I'm so not the Matrix anymore. I've been letting go of all those things that society says that I need, you know, to survive. And I'm so distanced from everything that's going on in the world sphere, the public eye, because I'm so busy over here creating what I want in my life. And my boyfriend the other day, my partner, he quoted to me, he's like, Frank Costello, some, you know, mafia crime boss, at some point, he said this quote, and it rings true. The reason why I'm so disconnected with current events and whatever else is going on out there is because, like, I'm busy over here. You know, I'm busy making the world that I want. And the quote from Frank Costello is, I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. And that's exactly what the vibe is of, like, what the next chapter I think is for the collective is not worrying about what's going on. We're, you know, turning our attention to here and worrying about creating what we want.
And something to end with that is, in order for us to be in our creative space, we need to be aligned with our creator.
Yeah.
So I just
send me that meditation stuff.
I will. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It was wonderful. You're beautiful. You're amazing. You're incredible. And I can't wait to have you on again. Thanks so much, Jules Rose, one more time. And we'll see it again. So thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye, Ace.